Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Something a little bit different for you today. We're going to have Pastor Fred's story time. All right, woodworkers, gather around. Tell me if this has ever happened to you. You're out somewhere and you're meeting some people and they say, hey, what do you like to do in your spare time? And you say, oh, I like to do woodworking. And what happens as soon as you say that? Well, now they start rattling off things. Can you build this? Can you build that? Can you build this? Have you ever built one of those? I have been asked everything from picture frames is a big one, I think, for all woodworkers. You make picture frames? I've made more picture frames. I'm sick of picture frames. I don't want to build no more. Another one, can you build a table? Well, yeah, I can build a table. I have the wood. Oh, great. It's stacked in my backyard. Okay, it's going to be a year. It's going to cost how much? That's what it costs to build a table. The other big one is, do you make cutting boards? I've made a couple cutting boards. I don't live there. Nothing wrong with it if that's your bread and butter. I mean, as my mother always used to say, dance with the one that brung you. So great. I haven't made a whole lot of cutting boards because I haven't needed to. And like I said before, I don't sell my stuff. If I was going to, I would certainly be making cutting boards. But the other thing that I ran into is you get asked if you can fix things. Can you fix this broken chair? Can you, make this look better than what it does? And that's what I have before me today is a very nice end grain cutting board. I did not make this. There's a thing on it. Mountain Woods is the name of it. And if that's you, nice job. This is a beautiful cutting board. But someone at the church said, oh, I have some cutting boards. Can you refresh them? I guess. So that's what I'm going to do today is I've already done 2 of them and given them back. But this is the last one I have to do. And I actually forgot about it. It's been under the shelf for about a month. So that's what I'm going to do today. And just kind of talk a little bit about how I do this. If you build cutting boards, you already know how to do this. Okay. But there might be someone out there that says, hey, I don't make cutting boards, but someone's asking me to fix theirs. Okay, well, here you go. This piece is garbage. I don't like to start with a really heavy grit. Okay. But in this case, this cutting board has been used, which if you're going to have a cutting board, cut on it. That's what it's kind of the purpose for it. So there's knife marks and things like that. And I'm guessing that what this person wants me to do is get as much of that out as possible and recoat this. And I'll talk about coating it and all of that afterwards. So I'm going to start with an 80 grit. I found a piece of almost new, listen folks, I still haven't gotten 120 grit sandpaper yet. I'll get it. I just don't know when. Maybe I'll just go to Amazon because I don't have a Harbor Freight near me, which is where I get I get Harbor Freight sandpaper, but it'll be all right. Listen though, but I found a piece of almost new 120 grit sandpaper. So I feel confident that I can start with an 80 grit, go back over it with the 120. I'm going to hit it again with a 220. And we'll see if we can get this cleared up. You know what? Before I start, I'll give you kind of a view as to what it looks like right now. So as you can see, it's got some cut marks, some knife marks in it, which you would expect. Like I said, it's a cutting board. You're going to get that. But as I kind of pull up away, you can see where a lot of the finish, it's not a finish, but a lot of the oil has gone away. The backside looks pretty much exactly the same as this. So that's what I'm going to be working with. That's what I'm going to be sanding on, like I said, and that's why I'm starting with an 80 grit. Okay, one thing I need to point out before I get started on this. Questions will rise. Questions are going to come up. Do you do the edges? Well, I'm going to, because if you're going to, put an oil back on this, you're going to want to put it over the whole thing. But here's the thing. As I said, this has a label per se on it, a maker's mark, if you will. It's burned in. Okay. The people who owns this cutting board know the man that made it. They're friends with him. And so, yes, I'm going to sand the edges. I'm going to avoid that. I don't want to take the original maker's mark out. I don't want to take his brand out because that has meaning to the person that owns it. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. And I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the first grit, which is an 80. I do have dust collection set up on this. I said before it's rather burdensome, but we're going to have to work with it on this because we're going to have all kinds of dust. So this is after the 80 grit, and I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, but most of the knife marks are gone. And that's just after an 80 grit. There is one right here, but I have at least one more, if not two more, papers to run. And again, as I said, he has a logo. So what I've done is I've just sanded up to that. And what I'm going to do is when I get my finish paper, which will be a 220, I'm just going to blow across that real quick. One added feature is there are handles cut into either side. Like I said, whoever made this board did a beautiful job. It's really nice work. It's also chamfered on the sides. And so that's going to be handwork. I'm not going to try and get in there with a random orbit sander and take that out. Because again, I can change the shape of it if I do that, and I don't want to do that. So that's going to be handwork. So I'm going to hit that real quick and move on to the next paper. Okay, I went ahead and ran through all my grits. This is the bottom part of the board. There are some pretty gnarly knife marks that I got most of them out. Didn't get them all out. I mean, I could have really hammered it with an 80 grit, but I don't want to change the shape of the board either. I don't want there to be a really low spot. So they're faint. They're probably going to show up whenever I put the finish on this, but that's okay. Speaking of finish, you can get this on the Amazon. This is Howard Butcher Block Conditioner. And what this is a food grade mineral oil and natural waxes. And this is what I use on the cutting boards that I make when I make them. It says shake well. Hey, it's made in America. Buy this. Shake well, dump it on. I soak it and I'm just using paper towels. Okay. I'm not using a scrubby pad or anything like that. It's a cutting board. I put it on really kind of heavy, probably heavier than I need to. I still don't have finish on my bench top yet, so I'm probably going to put some on there. Holy moly, is that gorgeous. Okay, so that's walnut. Wasn't sure what that was. Wow. We're going to put some more on there. I think it's walnut. Well, this whole thing's poplar. Wouldn't that be funny? That raises a question. What do you guys that make cutting boards, what kind of woods do you use? I've read big debates about this, don't use oak. Oh, don't use this, don't use that. What do you guys use on your cutting boards? Just kind of curious. If you tell me oak, dude, I am off to the races because I got plenty of that. I'm gonna let that go for a first coat. And I'm lazy and I want to finish the whole thing right now. Like I want to get one coat on the whole thing now because it has to sit. So I cut out little squares of, I don't know, particle board, press board, whatever you want to call it. And I just ran screws up through them. I'm going to set it on that. As long as you're not beating on it, it's not going to indent the project. Ooh. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to get 3 of the edges. Stay. And the nice thing is, I was able to keep his original logo. I'll show you that here in a minute. I don't know who you guys watch and who you don't on the old YouTube there. I watch a young man by the name of Josh Wright, who scares me to death when he runs his table saw because I scream for his safety. But he comes up with some amazing ideas. The kid's using a biscuit joiner for everything but setting biscuits. But I watched him do a project where he finished the entire thing with butcher block oil. And it wasn't a butcher block and it wasn't a cutting board. It was just a project he made. And he said, hey, I have this, I'm going to use it. And that's what he did. He finished the whole thing in butcher block oil. Huh. Isn't it funny? The edge I still need to do is the one that's away from me. Huh, of course. Let me know if I miss anything. This is what I would consider the top based on the logo. And I'm going to leave that on crazy heavy because that's the one that's going to get wiped off the most and all of that. But I'll bring you around. I'll let you see what this looks like. Isn't that a beautiful cutting board? I wish I could say that I made this. As you can see, that is on really heavy. And I'm just going to let that soak in. It says let it soak in for a couple hours. I'm probably going to let it soak in overnight. And then I'm going to come back out, wipe that off, put another coat on it. Here is the logo. I came right up to it with the 80, flew over it with the 120, and then flew over it quickly with the 220, and then I hand sanded around it. Fortunately, when he branded it, he put it in pretty deep, so I was able to preserve that. But golly, what a nice looking board. All right. Now all I got to do is let that soak in. I'm going to go eat dinner. So after sitting essentially overnight, not quite 24 hours, this is what we have left. You can see, if you remember how much was on there, most of it has soaked in. Now, you can kind of see from my finger tracks, there is a film on there. And so what we're going to do with that film is essentially, we're going to wipe it off. And you're going to wipe everything off. Top, bottom, sides, middle, whatever you got. Just wipe the whole thing off. You don't have to scour it, but just wipe it off. And once I get everything wiped off, I'm going to put a second coat on, probably equally as heavy as I did the first. I'm going to let that sit overnight. And then you wipe that down again. And then it's ready to go. You can put as many coats of this on as you want. I almost believe that the person that made this maybe only did one coat because it was pretty easy to sand. So that's basically, I'm going to say, how you would refinish a cutting board. Now, you may not get asked to do this. You might get asked to build a table instead, or a picture frame, or something else. Tell me what people have asked you to build. I'm curious about that. But the reason I bring this up is because someone might ask you, or you might be at a thrift store or a yard sale and find a very nice cutting board that's in very bad shape. They're fixable. Take the time. If you pay $2 for it and it's a 1-inch end grain cutting board like this and you give $2 for it, refinish it, re-oil it, recondition it, and sell it, because it's still there. It just needs a little bit of help. So maybe you'll find this helpful. I know it's something different than what I normally do, but I had to do this anyway, so I figured I'd just tell you what I'm up to. But that's it. From this point here, another coat, let it sink in, wipe that off, give it back. And that's it. All right, folks, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next one. God bless you.